I don't even know how I'm going to start this. We're starting it right here. This is the beginning of the episode. Say hi.
Hi, guys.
Welcome back.
So, for everybody listening, you might recognize these voices. You might not. So I'm going to have you guys say your names. That way people know who you are. But I've got Bryce and Zach on, who they've both been on separately. They've never been on together before. You might remember Bryce from the episode where I made you drink the barrel-proof Elijah Craig in order to make the Weller taste better.
It's funny when you talk Bryce, you have to say, made him drink.
I made him. I tricked him into it. And
I was the one that almost puked.
You might remember Zach from the Glencairn versus Lowball episode that we just had, which we are going to be revisiting briefly in this episode. I wanted to do a little experiment, but we'll get to that. So, Zach, say hi, Zach.
Oh, hello.
Bryce, say hi, Bryce.
Hi, people.
Hi, people. So I just like to do that because have you ever listened to a podcast with like 4 people and you have no idea who's who? It's the most agitating
There's
thing
some
in the
like big name podcasts that have like 4 people on, and when you're not watching the video, you're like, I have no idea who this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the greatest when they all talk at once. We're probably going to do that 3 or 4 times, but hey.
I'm trying really hard.
Yeah. It happens.
These headsets make it easy.
Yeah.
Easier.
Easier, for sure. All right, so this episode is going to be a review of Green Spot Irish Whiskey, which you guys can see on the table. For those of you listening, we're going to be tasting Green Spot Irish Whiskey, and we're going to revisit the Lowball versus Glencairn that Zach and I tried. We're going to try it again because we kept mentioning that we think pouring the whiskey was having a huge impact. So this time we're going to do our best to lift it without agitating at all. No swirling, none of that. And we're going to see. We'll do that temporarily throughout the episode.
You know what I thought about after leaving that episode last time is every time we started with the Glencairn or wine glass, which is probably the worst thing we could have done because it was sitting there, and then we would pour it hard into a lowball.
Right, exactly, which doesn't have any way to contain the fumes. So just right up.
And you're like, this is definitely the Glencairn. The fumes are all hitting my nose.
Right. And Bryce, for you, since you probably haven't listened to that episode, there was like zero correlation. It was.
Is this supposed to be more of a smell or a taste thing?
Just smell.
I thought
we're just gonna hold it in front of our neighbor's nose, and they're gonna smell with their eyes closed. No peeking. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about Green Spot Irish Whiskey. I did not have time to prepare show notes for this, actually, but I figured with 3 people, we're not going to follow show notes very much anyways. So Green Spot is a single pot still Irish whiskey. It's triple distilled. I'm just reading this all from the label here. If you don't know what single pot still is, go listen to the Irish Whiskey episode. I don't remember it off the top of my head. I want to say maybe episode 9 or something like that. It's in the low number episodes. You can listen to the Irish Whiskey episode. I talk about single pot still and what that means. So if you're not aware, go give that a listen. It is from Mitchell and Son is the brand. Fine wines and spirits from Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, never been to Dublin.
I haven't either.
We're about to go tonight.
We're about to try it right now. And this is only 80 proof or 40% alcohol by volume. So Bryce, you might be a fan since you don't like
nice.
You don't
I'm
like
actually excited.
This episode was made for you.
I'm excited.
It's good. It's a very easy sipper. I have already tried it. I try to try them beforehand, so
He's cheating on us.
I know.
Yeah.
I like to get I used to not do that. So fun fact, this is also a fun fact for those listening. I used to be like, I want to try it for the first time on air, so it's authentic. And that is authentic, but it's only one palate condition. So it's like, if my palate's being real fragile that day, I'm like, this tastes like jet fuel. And, so I started trying it more beforehand so that I don't have that happen. So you get a little bit more balanced of a review.
I feel like every time I come, we usually do it at like 7:30 at night.
Yeah.
And you probably just smashed dinner.
Right. It's like, it doesn't taste
idea.
like anything. I just dumped a bottle of Frank's Red Hot on my chicken. So
This scotch tastes like steak.
Yeah, exactly. So to read from the back of the label here and just give you guys a little bit of info, it says, once almost extinct, this legendary whiskey is a rare take of pot still Irish whiskey at its best. Matured in American bourbon and sherry casks. Okay, so we're going to have a bourbon finish and a sherry finish. This is a whiskey of immense flavor and complexity. A splendid choice. I like they throw that in there. So single pot still. for you two and for those of you who don't know, I'm not going to go through all the rules, but basically, unlike single malt, where you've just got malted barley, single pot still you have a mix of malted and unmalted barley in the mash bill. So some of it has been malted, or basically you sprout it and then dry it, and some of it has not gone through that process. So that's what we're going to get here. We're going to see what types of flavors that gives us. Let's go ahead and get a quick nose of it. I want your guys' impression. So for those of you listening, Bryce, typically more of a bourbon guy. Zach, typically more of a Scotch guy. We'll see what you guys think.
I get smoky, sweet.
I don't really get smoky.
Compared to a Scotch, it's not very smoky.
I think I made it too close to my nose. It started to burn a little bit, and so I pulled it back a little bit.
Yeah.
And I got some different things.
You got your nose down in there too.
It's pretty heavy for an 80.
Yes. A little bit more alcohol you'd anticipate for an 80.
Yeah.
Very, I'm going to say grainy, malty.
I was about to say, it's kind of like, it's not like American whiskey malty, though. It's kind of like, I almost said walking into a meadow, but I knew Bryce would make fun of me, so. It's
grassy.
It's like grassy, yeah.
Yeah.
See, it's hard because my nose is not conditioned for this. So, like, my main takeaway, whether it be bad or not, is like nail polish remover.
Hey, that's why it's whiskey
Yeah, I mean,
Noobs.
it's not.
That's why it's whiskey Noobs.
Like, it gives me like a lacquer thinner, like that kind of smell.
I'm really excited to see the lowball versus the Glencairn for you for that reason.
Yeah, I'm
Since you're
excited
newer
too.
to it,
Yeah.
I'm interested if one's like jet fuel and one's not. We'll see, but I don't know. Definitely grainy. I'd say a little bit of a spice to it. Maybe some light fruit.
There's definitely light fruit.
Oh,
for sure.
okay. Wait, I think I can get that. Maybe like a fig Newton bar.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't want to say fig, but like particularly a fig Newton bar.
Well, to justify that a little bit, the part of the fig Newton that's not the fig, the bready part of it, definitely. You've got that like biscuity, typical Irish whiskey, biscuity type flavor.
I'm getting the big fig Newton bar there.
Now that you say it, I can get it. If I picture a fig Newton, I'm like,
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't eat them often, but there's just something in my head. Takes me back to my childhood eating fig Newtons.
What's the price of this? I feel like I have to have my expectations set.
Oh, man, that's
when
a
I
great
taste it,
question.
Or else I'm going to, I could destroy this.
I want you both to take guesses at the price while I bring it up on OHLQ after we taste it. That way, no expectations. I don't want you to have expectations.
okay.
I want you to taste it and give me a guess.
I
so
agree.
let's do the palate
Okay.
while I bring up the price.
There's a lot more fruit on the palate than the nose.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird fruit though.
It's more candy-y to me than like fresh fruit. It's almost more like a candy fruit. Kind of.
It's definitely a drier fruit. Like
Yeah.
what are those? This is gonna sound dumb. What are those little tiny? Take an apple or a peach. Take a peach and shrink it down and make it look a little more dried out. What is that thing called?
A dried fruit? What are we talking
No,
about?
no.
Like an apricot?
No, not an apricot.
Oh, you're looking for the fruit.
The
name
actual
of the
fruit.
You take a peach,
or
a plum, or an apricot. Apricot.
like an apricot, but the really tiny looking ones. There's another thing.
A plum?
nectarine.
Plum.
Plum or a nectarine. Yeah, that's the kind of fruit like
gotta go
halfway
back in.
between like an artificial and a real flavor, but like one of those kind of fruits, like a plum.
This is bizarre, but
Send
I
it.
get like a starchy pasta. Like, I swear to God.
That's not bizarre. It's the graininess. The
yeah.
malty.
It tasted grainy to me, like a wheat pasta.
Yes, like a protein pasta.
Yes.
If you've had those, I fully back that. Yes, it's got. Have you ever eaten pasta not cooked as a kid, and, like crunched on
Yeah,
it?
it tastes like pasta to me.
It's
Like,
got the floury,
Yeah.
grainy taste.
Yeah.
Not floury like floral, floury like flour that you use to make pasta. to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
clear, like the baking ingredient. That could be easily mistaken. Definitely a little bit of a brightness of a fruit. Oily at first. I'm getting a little dryness at the end. That's
Really
surprising
dry.
me. That
it looked really oily in the glass when you poured it.
It's oily when it hits your tongue, I think. I think it really floats around your tongue. And then when you swallow, the finish is a little bit drier.
Which definitely sets my price expectation. There's a little bit of a candy flavor on that sip, but I'm sticking with my it's plum, mild kind of candy that I can't put my finger on what it is. Little bit of a dry finish.
I think the finish could go either way, honestly, because It's weird. So I don't know if I've had this, or if I haven't put it to words yet. It is fumy in your like nasal cavity on the finish, but your tongue doesn't feel dry.
Oh, my
I'm
tongue's not dry. Like my mouth isn't like I need water.
Yeah, it is interesting because my tongue feels oily, but my throat feels dry.
Like when I think dry, I think like a dry wine or like a dry whiskey, where it feels like you have cotton balls on your tongue. It's like my mouth's dry. It's like oily but very fumy, which almost probably is where the nose is coming from. Because like we said, it's got a strong nose for 80 proof.
I'm trying to have it like in my mouth for a different amount of times.
Swirl it around the cheeks.
Yeah. Because the longer it sat in my mouth, the more the pasta taste I got. But the shorter the sip, the more fruit forward it was.
I can see that. The graininess starts to come through. It's fruit in the beginning, transitions to more of a graininess.
Yeah.
I'll throw in there's a small underlying oak that you wouldn't notice if you're super used to bourbon, but it's probably partially biased because I know this is aged in bourbon casks. It's got that.
Like, are you looking for it, or can you taste it? Because I don't know. I feel like I can taste it, but if you wouldn't have told me that it was how it was aged,
right?
I probably wouldn't point that out.
It's just a touch. I think the reason I'm thinking that is because I'm getting a little bit of the white sugary vanilla spice that you get in bourbon, characteristically. It's got just a little bit of that I think is making me say the fruit tastes more like candy. It's that the white sugar and vanilla combined with the fruit is giving me candy.
I think it's like a super neutered down version of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
big time.
And that is like getting masked by my plum taste.
Right.
And those together is like this weird, like it's somewhat like candy flavor.
Yeah, exactly. And it's definitely it's diluted because
but the more I drink this, the more they're two distinct flavors. Then like before it was like an artificial plum with like a sweetness, but now it's like two different things. And I kind of like it. It's complex. See, that might change my price guess again because it's complex enough to have like three different flavors.
Right. And I will add something this has that I'm not a super huge fan of. A little bit of a bitterness, like a clove, that it's a little bit of a turnoff for me. For most things made with barley have some amount of it, and I'm getting that in
Is
here.
that bar of soap taste I'm getting at the end?
Yeah, exactly. Or no, you know what I call it? I think I've told Zach this, but not you. When you lick an envelope.
Yeah. It's like the envelope licking taste.
It's that taste.
Yeah.
And as soon as he said that the first time, I forget what we were drinking. It was one with 2 bottles.
I don't remember.
As soon as you said that, I was like,
yeah.
Yeah, and also like the longer that I had it in my mouth, the more it tasted like a bar of Old Spice.
Old Spice.
Specifically Old Spice.
That should have a lot of flavor to it. I don't know.
Wow, I wish soap tasted like it smelled.
How do you know what Old Spice tastes like?
It tastes like the smell of Old Spice.
He grew up on Terry Crews commercials.
Yeah.
Eating soap.
Yeah. All right.
I get a candied smell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's definitely like a wheat candied smell.
I think there's more fruitiness on the palate, but in the beginning. But then you get the strong grain. It's almost herbal. It's almost a little bit of like. I'm really bad with herbs, but the herby type smell, like rosemary, thyme, like your spice cabinet.
It's like herbaceous.
Herbaceous. Is that a word?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, that's like a great Scrabble word. So,
is that less than 7 letters?
Oh no, does it have to be? I don't play Scrabble.
Me either.
This guy.
I thought it could be as many as you want. I thought more was better.
You get 7 letters. That's it.
But you could build off of. I guess you only get 1 if you build off of it.
Well, you could. I mean, most likely.
If I did herb, I could add acious. Maybe. I don't know.
Hey.
I don't know how Scrabble works.
I don't know how it's spelled. I don't know if it's a real word, but it sounded cool in the moment.
Let's take a guess at the price.
Do you want to go first? I'll go first.
Let me go first because I have no idea what any of this costs.
I'll go first. Okay, Bryce first.
I got tired of waiting on him as soon as I said
I'm going to say this is $34.
That's not okay because my guess was $34.99.
I feel bad for Green Spot.
Well, I'm going to guess it's because of your reaction. I'm going to say it's probably $50.
$75.
Okay.
And I will say, so there is a cult following that loves Green Spot. I will say, as I mentioned, I tried this not on the show. I was disappointed. This to me, and maybe I just need to try Redbreast again. Mm-hmm. Redbreast I like better, and it's $10 less.
100 times better.
I liked it a lot better, and I think it's that strong envelope lick flavor.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest
that's the
with
thing
you.
is, like once I distinguish that like it's like a throat nasal cavity burn and my tongue isn't dry, it made me think it was more expensive because at first I was like $35. But then like the complexity of that, multiple flavors, I was like, okay, it's probably more expensive. But for that,
I think it's good, but I definitely prefer Redbreast in my opinion.
now do some people prefer that like what we call the envelope flavor?
Well, and that's the thing, probably. So it is very, to me, malty, grainy. The parts of a granola bar that aren't the honey and the cinnamon, just the pale flavors of a granola bar. It's very forward with that.
Yeah.
Your cloves, your envelope licking,
Old Spice.
Old Spice.
What did they all say? I feel like the tasting notes of like the pale ones like this that have the envelope-y taste they always dress it up with like a honeysuckle or something.
And that's the thing, because usually I can get the honey, like Redbreast, what's the other one? Monkey Shoulder, honey. This is like white sugar. It's like paler than that. It's not as flavorful as honey to me. I don't know. But I can see where you'd really like it because I'm trying to be more objective here. It is more complex, and it doesn't dry your tongue out. It dries out your nasal cavity in a weird way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't dry your tongue out.
It does.
And at only 80 proof, it's very easy to nose. I mean, you don't have to hunt out the flavors. They're there. So, I don't know.
That's the thing is when the first time I nosed it had more of the alcohol for an 80 proof, which surprised me. Mm-hmm. But then once you get past that, you're like, wait, this has flavor at 80.
Right, exactly.
Which
At
is
80 proof,
pretty crazy.
That's another really good point that would drive up the price. At 80 proof, you're getting you're not hunting out flavors.
Yeah.
They're there.
It's kind of enjoyable for somebody like me. I don't really like high strength.
Do you remember
whiskey,
your first
bourbon.
episode, your Monkey Shoulder versus your Dirty Russell?
Yeah.
No, it's Tullamore Dew.
Yeah, Tullamore Dew.
Tullamore Dew and Russell's 10 year. That's another Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
If you want something duller, So,
but now doesn't Green Spot also isn't that like their theme, right? Because I've seen like Red Spot, like there's other
yeah, they're all
ones.
spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's green
It's
spot,
like
yellow
white.
spot, red spot. I think there's a silver or a gray that's like hard to find, or gold. I think it's gold. That's hard to get. They only get more expensive from here. So this is their base bottle of $75. And maybe because my expectations were so high, everybody loves not everybody, but a lot of people love Green Spot. A little bit disappointed. I'll just say it.
Yeah.
For the price, like if you would have came out and said it was $50, I'd be like, that's pretty good for $50.
I think for $50, it's a fair shake. I can see why you guys guessed so low because it's really not the palate of bourbon drinkers. I mean, it is mellow.
It also doesn't have my syrupy taste I always am looking for.
It doesn't really have either of those.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the vanilla spice of bourbon and the rye that's in a bourbon usually.
I do get like some cinnamon and nutmeg.
Yeah, it's herbaceous and a little bit spicy, especially on the nose. Less spice on the palate for me.
The more I smell it, the more I get like molasses, brown sugar.
Now, we will talk about what they say you should get. Luckily, because I didn't put together show notes. They put it right there on the bottle for us.
Well, that's nice.
That should be a rule.
Yeah, I agree.
I know, right?
I agree.
It makes things so much easier. So we will talk about the notes, but first we got to do our lowball versus Glencairn debate. So here I've got, I think it's a 12-ounce old-fashioned glass, and then I've got a normal Glencairn. We got to do some blind nosing. So, Mr. Zachary, we want to start with him?
Oh, we'll go. You got to go in order.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
We're starting with Bryce. So, Bryce, I'm going to have you close your eyes, and Mr. Zach is going to hold these up to your nose, and I will commentate. Zach is rattling them around to throw them off.
Okay,
so he's nosing the first one. Gotta be confusing. Nothing yet. Okay, glass 2 is up. Okay, first impression.
I think that glass 2 smelled specifically sweeter than glass 1, but can you bring glass 1 back?
Yeah, no, let's do it again.
Let me do it again because I don't think I got a good whiff of glass 1.
So glass 1 again.
Yeah. I kind of got a little bit of like raisins in that one.
Interesting. Okay, we're bringing up glass 2 now.
Let's hear it.
Glass 2 is distinctively sweeter, but I can't pin down what the sweetness is. Glass 1 has the Irish Spring soap smell more distinctly to me.
Okay, so go ahead and open your eyes. We got them both sitting down so you don't know which is which. So which one, in terms of the volume of flavor you got from them, do you think would be the Glencairn? Which one do you think, if you were nosing a whiskey, be easier to nose it?
I don't know. It's a good question. Probably the Glencairn.
But which one or two though? I mean.
Oh, definitely 2.
Oh, 2. Okay.
Yeah,
Two
I
is
think,
easier?
I think 2, yeah.
Okay. All right. We got some conclusion there. We're not going to tell you. We're going to do all of us first.
Yeah. Okay.
Last time we told each other, and I don't like that. Let's get some.
Yeah, because I don't want expectations for. Well, Bryce, it'd be different if you were going before me.
Yeah, I'm also the least experienced, so that's probably best.
Good point. All right. So, Mr. Zach, you're going to close your eyes. Bryce, go ahead and hold them up.
You should wait. You should definitely take off your headphones and come over here, because that's what I did to you, and it's way easier to not smack someone in the face and give it away.
All right. So, we're going to have glass 1 here in a second.
Okay, glass 1 is coming.
Is the glass there yet?
Yes.
Yeah, it's there. It's very close to your nose.
Okay.
All right. Now, let's get glass 2.
Okay.
All right. First thoughts, and then I'm going to go ahead and lean a little bit forward to your microphone here, and then we'll restart. Yeah, there's your mic.
See, this is just my initial guess. Can I open my eyes? Or
Yeah, you're good. They're both sitting down now.
I don't even know that I need to nose it again.
Okay.
Because being an 80 proof, the problem is with when you get a Glencairn is the flavors, I feel like, require agitation.
Ah, okay.
The other thing is when it has, usually I feel like an 80 proof, it wouldn't be as big of a deal.
Yeah.
Because when I have a low ball or a Glencairn or our wine glass we did last time,
Yeah.
usually the alcohol is so weak that you can still pull some of the flavors, and there's usually not very many flavors, but this one's so special that it has like an alcohol and flavor profile at 80 proof. I feel like the Glencairn is really beneficial, which is why I thought it was the first one.
So you think number 1's the Glencairn?
That would be my guess.
And you said number 1 or number 2?
Number two for him.
Number 2's the Glencairn. Number 1's the Glencairn. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go now.
So Bryce is the only one that's going to really be talking here.
Yeah, I'll keep my mic at a reasonable distance so that I can.
I'm up, boys.
Bryce, the
Time to go.
commentator.
And we're taking over. I'm number 1 now.
Is there one there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gone.
Okay.
Okay, we're coming up with number 2.
Okay. Give me number 1 again.
I like the diversion tactics.
I like it. Okay. Number 1. Or number 2, I mean. Okay. Yep. I got my answer. I just bumped it, but
So
I
what's
have
your
my
thoughts,
answer.
Mr. Chris?
Whether it's for better or worse, whether it's the Glencairn or not, number 2 has distinctly more flavor. Distinctly, I could smell more in number 2. Number 1, more alcohol, less flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, more flavor, which, based on both of your responses, I'm going to guess is actually the low ball. I'm going to guess I picked the low ball because both of you did.
Oh, wow.
So, what are the results here?
You got the Glencairn.
I did.
Yes.
All right. Maybe I'm just that much better than you
Yeah,
guys.
you're definitely more.
Here's my thing is
Definitely better than me.
I got a really strong profile from now I know the low ball, and I just kind of assumed that was the concentrated flavors because the other one was so weak that I just
Right.
Yeah, the Glencairn then was really hard for me to pull anything out of.
I truly think, and so the first time you held up what would have been the low ball, number 1 was low ball for me, right? Number 2 was Glencairn.
Yes.
Yeah. So the first time you held up number 1, I thought I smelled like nothing. I didn't even know it was in front of me. Then you held up the Glencairn, and I got flavor. Then you held up low ball again, and I was like, oh, this smells the same. And then you held up Glencairn again, and I was like, okay, same again. So I'm going to go with number 2 because it had distinctly more flavor. But the moral of the story is it was pretty darn close.
yeah. I feel like the margin grows a little bit with the higher proof stuff,
You could be right. And it, like... And
but it's still close.
Exactly.
And from our last experience, it was close with 3 glasses.
Right. And we mentioned this in that episode. The Glencairn still lends itself to, it's got not a stem, but what I would call a nub. So you don't heat it up with your hands if you don't want to. Or you can heat it up and you can palm it. It has the shape so that you can swirl it and you can agitate it, which is something we did not do. And it has a smaller target. So the low ball, we could be seeing this variation based on where our nose is at on the low ball. There's also that aspect of it. The low ball is less, I feel like, predictable, whereas the Glencairn is more predictable, for better or worse. But I think, so the whole point of this was we set them down, we did not agitate them. We thought in Zach and I's episode we were agitating them, and that was causing the problem. I think we can definitively put to bed that it is a hair margin as to which one's better.
Yeah.
In terms of just the nose. It's just the nose. That's all we're talking about. But it's not that much of a difference.
And I think that you hit the nail on the head with this because in order to really pull smell out of this, you have to agitate it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I've just been doing a little experiment of my own over here.
And it's made so it's so easy to agitate.
Yeah, this is so much easier than trying to agitate that.
Right. It's so easy to agitate.
Also,
I feel like this almost loses.
Yeah. You're almost
it's
pushing all the
escaping
fumes out of it.
Yeah. You know, the thing I think I like the most about Glencairns, and the reason I use them, is for drinking, not for the nose as much. I mean, the nose is an advantage. The agitation is the advantage. But, like, the concentration and ability to, like, regulate the size of your sip
Well, that's true. It's almost
is so
like,
much better out of this.
It's like I drink so much with Glencairns that I choose to drink with Glencairns because I drink with Glencairns. Like, I know how much to put in it. I know what to expect. I know how to nose from it. It's just
familiar.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's much more repeatable than a low ball. You've also got 12-ounce low balls. You've got 7-ounce low balls. You've got 10-ounce low balls. So there's so much variation. A Glencairn, you're getting the same thing every time.
Yeah.
So I think that is part of it. But I also think there is a very snooty, is the word presupposition? What's the word? You know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. There's a very snooty idea floating around out there that anybody who drinks from a low ball is like, ugh, they're not serious. And I think that's super
It's like
wrong.
the test of A people with the wine.
Can I try both?
Yeah.
Can I try both these?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. I only sneezed in the low ball. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You ever seen those wine people?
Which one?
Like the little tasting spoon type people.
Oh, yeah, and swish it around and spit it into a bucket and stuff. Yeah.
That's so wild to me.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, getting foolproof, like Weller foolproof, and just being like, take sip and just spit?
I
try to drink.
It feels wrong.
Take one sip out of each.
Why?
I just be interested to see what your experience is. I feel like my experience changed a little bit between the two.
Oh, okay.
I think because my nose is down in the glass of the low ball.
True.
Personally, I think it made it harsher.
The low ball made it harsher?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
I don't really taste the difference in that versus mine, but I will say I just smacked myself in the upper lip with the drink. And that, again, comes back to my advantage of the Glencairn is I could be intoxicated, and I can still make sure that goes right in my mouth.
You can handle it.
Yeah.
That's a great point. The Glencairn's almost perfect because
It's ergonomic.
it hits your nose perfectly if it's in your mouth.
Yeah.
Right on the end of my nose there.
Yeah. The shape is just
It's
ideal.
ergonomic.
We might be super overanalyzing it, but here's what's important. I truly feel like if you okay, so and this was a scenario we talked about during your episode, Zach. If you go to a bar and you're going to try something new that's relatively expensive and they don't have Glencairns
Or hard to get.
I don't think it's going to ruin your experience to have a low ball, especially
Agreed.
not if you have a wine glass, because then you can agitate if you have a wine glass or a snifter.
Yeah. Well, I was telling Chris, I guess I was telling both of you, that on Christmas this year, I think, at my fiance's uncle's house, somebody had Weller Foolproof, and there were no Glencairns.
Right.
And I still enjoyed it a lot.
And for those of you who don't know, that's a very hard to get bottle. So, and it's, you can still enjoy it for sure. So let's talk about, really quickly, I want us all to agree on a nose palate finish, and then I'm going to read the notes that they say.
Okay.
Or maybe not agree, but just give our nose palate finish. So I would say nose, I've got way more bright candy flavors with strong grain. It's a strong nose in general. Strong grain, strong bright candy-like flavors, a hint of spice, a hint of like almost like salty or like black pepper. And then on the palate, no spice, not no spice, but no salty, no black pepper, nothing harsh like that. Very smooth. Starts off with the fruitiness, fades into like a graininess, and then on the finish, oily on my tongue, burning in my nasal cavity.
Envelope on your tongue.
Envelope on your tongue, especially the longer you sit. Go ahead.
Floral on the nose.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what.
Floral's a fair statement. Floral, herbal. I forgot to mention herbs, but yeah.
Herbaceous.
Yeah, but it's not like,
Herbaceous.
to me, it's not like a rosemary herb. It's like a weaker herb, but like a fruitier herb. You know?
I think it might have been you that said this. It's almost like walking through a field with like high grass.
Yeah.
Like almost a little grassy.
Yeah, like grainy mixed with like herby with some flowers sprinkled in there, you know?
Absolutely.
Weak artificial fruit, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's not like an apple,
Right.
but it's not like sniffing like cheap candy either. So it's not like
I think you said dried, and I think that's a fair in between. It's not like
Yeah.
fresh fruit, but it's maybe not as candy-y as I'm making it out.
Yeah,
like
it's
dried
not,
fruit.
and it's definitely not like fake like crown apple.
Yeah, nowhere near that. Nowhere near that.
And then the taste, I'm gonna go with it is like a plum or whatever other weird mini dry fruit that you guys told me exists.
Nectarine.
Yeah, nectarine.
There you go. Whatever fake fruit you guys are coming up with over there.
Whatever term you guys invented this morning. I don't know. There's a mild vanilla, like extremely mild, and mild oak that goes with that. It's like the oaky vanilla.
It's very, very mild. If I wasn't looking for it, I've made a point to look for oakiness now because I never mention it, especially because I drink so much bourbon. It's very mild. Very mild.
Extremely. But it's there.
Yeah.
And our clove envelope-y finish.
Clove, yeah.
Which, God, does some people like that? I
For
know
sure,
that some people for
do.
sure like that, and it's
For
just
sure.
weird to me because it's not my thing.
It's
I
not
love
mine
like
either.
syrupy, oily finishes, and this is like the dry clovey finish.
Yeah.
But it's surprisingly not dry in your tongue,
right. Dry in
nice,
your nasal cavity.
which explains why it's so expensive.
Yeah, exactly. It's complex. If we're being objective here, that's why it's so expensive. But go ahead, Bryce.
Yeah, I definitely get the floral. I get a sweetness though.
I wanted so badly you to be like, nail polish remover.
Yeah, I do get
gasoline,
that. I do get that.
And jet fuel.
I'm trying to
No, go
Trying
ahead.
to
remain
Airlines.
objective.
Yeah. If you've ever been maced before, it's the same
This
thing.
is it.
It almost has like a potpourri. Is almost what it smells like to me.
That is a good descriptor, I think.
That's what I mean by like the herbs. Like the herbs is kind of like a potpourri.
See, that's my floral thing. That's
Yeah.
way better
Yes.
description than my
Yeah.
floral thing.
I think I'm not even saying this to stroke your ego. I think you nailed
my
it.
ego is stroked.
The herbaceous that I was saying and the floral that Zach was saying, potpourri.
Yeah,
Potpourri is a
that's-
way better description.
I was thinking.
I'm picturing like stupid pine cones
Yeah.
that like every woman puts in a little basket on
Exactly.
the table. Yeah.
And
That's
what
it
else
smells
is in
like.
potpourri a lot? Cloves.
Yeah. Cinnamon, cloves,
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah, but
smell.
I don't really
It's like those
smell-
like the
I
fall
feel like I don't
fall
really
spices.
I don't really smell like a clove as much as like a general like a cinnamony fall spice mixed with
Yeah.
the floral, you know.
I think that's a good
Yep.
descriptor.
But I mean, I randomly got like a raisin when we were doing the low ball versus the Glencairn.
Which raisin I think would correspond with the fig Newtons you said in the beginning.
Yeah, fig Newtons. That's kind of went away, but that I kind of tasted that too. You know, it's like a not like a super sweet fruit,
Right.
more of a like earthy, nutty fruit,
Yep. That makes sense.
and then definitely the Old Spice
Old
soap
Spice.
bar.
A bar of soap.
Yeah, at the end that bitterness. I mean, it's pretty bitter for
Yeah.
me. I mean, like it at the price range that would be a big turnoff.
Yeah.
You know,
Unless you liked it.
right?
It almost has a bitterness. This is where I can understand why people like it. I love brie, the cheese, and it has a kind of a bitterness, which I enjoy. This is like a bitterness that I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
But I can see why people would. Is
Yeah.
kind of my point. No, I think those all make sense.
It kind of lacks a little bit of balance.
Mm-hmm.
Like in order for a bitter to be enjoyable for me, it has to have a proper balance between sweet or savory or sour even, and the bitter overpowers.
It leans towards the clovey bitter envelope.
You need to
flavor.
find him like a mid-price point envelope-y one.
Envelope-y?
Because I feel like the balance goes away when you get up above $55-$60 because they're trying to go for like I don't know,
Distinctive flavors.
They're trying to go for like I can pull this, this, and this. Where
True.
maybe he would like better something $35 where it's like all blended.
I
Or
guarantee I would.
if you've had like red breast, though, I would argue Redbreast does the expensive category well in that you're getting specific flavors, but they're delivered all separately, and you're getting a balance. Redbreast, you're getting like fruity and then floral and then a little bit of that sherry, and then you're getting a little bit of that envelope. This, it kind of
a little bit of that envelope.
A little bit of that bitterness. And this, it's present in all phases of the palate. The palate does change, but it's kind of always there.
Yeah.
The other credit that I'll give to this, especially since it's a higher shelf whiskey, the credit that I'll give to it is I think throughout sitting here it has changed, which is something that you get sometimes. Sometimes when you pour it, it tastes one way. An hour later, it tastes different. I think this does taste different to the credit of the whiskey. It has a complexity to it, for better or worse. Let's talk about what they say we should
Here's
taste.
the thing, though.
Go ahead.
If you were into the clove envelope-y taste, that might be like a balance to you, because like this is one of the first ones where I can get the clove throughout the whole taste. So if I was into that,
yes,
I might be like, this has like clove throughout, and it's like an amazing.
There are some people that just really enjoy the taste of black coffee because they just like that bitter taste. Just for somebody like me, I just prefer balance. But also the last note is that like whole grain pasta.
Yeah,
I get that a lot at the start, and also that changed a lot, like the duration that it spent.
Yeah,
on my palate. The longer it spent on my palate, the more it tasted like envelope.
Envelope-y, grainy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll talk about what they say we should get. So I think nectarines are an orchard fruit, aren't they? Are nectarines or peaches? Those are orchard fruits.
Yeah, I would say.
You grow those in an orchard.
Yeah.
So we've got for the nose, fresh aromatic oils and spices with orchard fruits and barley on a background of toasted wood. Less the toasted wood. Well, I want you guys to react first. So that's the nose. So we've got fresh aromatic oils and spices, orchard fruits, and barley on a background of toasted wood. Go.
I think that the aromatics, they hit the nail on the head there. I mean, it's like adding aromatics to food. It's like if you put, some bay leaves and rice, and you put some star anise in rice, then you're going to get, all the aromatics, which I do kind of get. That's kind of that potpourri.
That's what I was going to say.
That's a good way to describe
aromatic oils and spices to me is a different way of saying potpourri, which is exactly what... That was impressive. I'm impressed. Anyways, go ahead. Go ahead, Zach.
No, they hit it on the head.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they could have a better... What was their leafy descriptor there?
Orchard fruits, barley on a background of toasted wood.
Okay, the toasted wood is a stretch.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I think as well.
Toasted wood... But that's because we're used to bourbon.
Right. Toasted wood to me is almost more in the neighborhood of like a cinnamon or like a vanilla. This doesn't have as much of that.
Yeah.
But I think...
But like I said, that's because we associate like the Buffalo Trace taste with toasted wood and stuff, and toasted oat and vanilla.
Right. And as far as distiller's notes go, this feels pretty honest. I mean, potpourri, orchard fruits, that all sounds right to me. Palate, we've got... this might be where we diverge a little bit.
From what they have or from each other?
From what they have.
Okay.
Full spicy body. Hint of cloves, along with the fruity sweetness of green apples, rounded off with, yet again, toasted oak.
Green apple.
Toasted oak is not their clove. They hit that on the head.
Clove, it's a hint, though. Like, why is it a hint?
I was about to say, it's not a hint of clove. It's a heavy clove.
Profile.
It's
clove
heavy.
Clove is the primary flavor. Like, have you ever seen the whiskey flavor wheels?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if you were doing the thing where you, like, stretch out, each end... If cloves on there usually,
right?
That thing would be maxed out.
I gotta go back in.
Yeah,
I gotta go for it again.
Here's
I don't get apples either.
Here's what I'll justify from it though, is full spicy body. Okay, go ahead.
You gotta go back in. I got the apples.
We're being brainwashed.
They either talk me into it or I got the apples.
I don't get anything different, to be honest. I don't get an apple.
I'm not gonna lie. I got the apples pretty strong.
I can see the argument for the apples. Here's what I will say. The full spicy body, if you take out spicy, full body for 80 proof, this has a lot of body to it. It has a lot of different things. It's not spicy. If you drink bourbon, it's not that kind of spicy. But if you open up your herb cabinet and you've got nutmeg, cinnamon, and a whole lot of clove in there, That I can see.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
All spicy type
Yeah.
scent. Hint of cloves, I'd say a lot of cloves. Fruity sweetness of green apples. I can agree with the green apple in that you get a little bit of it on your tongue where it almost gets your jaws a little bit.
Yeah.
I disagree with it in the way that they describe it, which is the fruity sweetness of green apples. This doesn't taste that type of fruity to me.
It's like artificial green apple.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's a good. What's like a green apple Jolly Rancher?
Yeah.
If it tastes like, I think I just got it in my head. So the envelope taste. It is if you ate a bunch of green apple Jolly Ranchers and then waited an hour. That stale sugar flavor that you get on your tongue, that's what it is.
I definitely get the green apple now. It was like that just connected the link for me.
Yeah.
Like that rounded out the flavor profile for me.
I can force it. I still don't think
That's
it's
what
like
I'm
a
saying.
super
I'm
green
easily
apple
convinced.
taste.
Yeah, I would stand by that it's not super forward for me on the green apples, but I can understand the argument. Toasted oak, I don't get a ton of, but once again, we drink a lot of bourbon on this show, so maybe that's what it is. Finish. Oh, that's the other thing. It has nowhere on the palate do they mention the graininess or the barley. That is there. That
is definitely there.
Grainy. The whole grain pasta that Bryce said, that is.
That's like the first most predominant flavor that I got.
I think so too. So I think that needs to be mentioned somewhere in there. It's grainy.
Can you say raw pasta?
Raw pasta.
Yeah.
It's like if you lick an envelope, shove your mouth full of raw pasta, and then eat a Jolly Rancher.
You know what we need to do? We should do layman's terms tasting.
Oh, I'm in. I'm full for that.
Somebody's gonna steal this idea now and be a billionaire, but
Cut this out.
yeah, gotta cut it out.
We're number one. We can't be wasting this stuff.
number one on iTunes. Literally, that is, if you just cut it down to layman's terms, this is like munching on raw whole grain pasta.
Can you even say raw pasta?
Uncooked pasta.
Uncooked whole grain pasta with a stale Jolly Rancher flavor in your mouth.
And licking an envelope.
And licking an envelope.
Putting
Just, I licked my mic by accident.
Wrapping a Jolly Rancher in an envelope and then sucking on it.
And then, yes. If they made flavored envelopes to make it better and they made it green Jolly Rancher flavored. Wow. Layman's terms tastings here, folks.
We made that sound really bad.
I know. I just thought about that. I thought, boy, we should probably not do that because then everybody's be like, "Oh God, I'm not drinking that."
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Who wants to drink
I think
raw
my biggest
pasta?
conclusion from Green Spot is that I don't really like 80 proof whiskey.
Well, that's a fair argument. We drink a lot of higher proof stuff. Well, Zach and I, maybe not Bryce.
Yeah. I did like that it didn't burn too much. I mean,
Yeah.
there's something to be
He
said
malfunctioned when you said that. He was like,
like,
jet fuel.
Yeah, you probably liked that you could finish your glass.
I did finish my glass, and
Yeah.
I mean that's
That's
there's
impressive.
That's an achievement for him.
That's something.
That's why they pay the big bucks, man. Bryce
That's the
is
thing
able
to me.
finish a
Like,
glass.
if I'm spending $75 on a bottle, I want something that has a lot of flavor, not something that's smooth.
Yeah, and here's
That's
the
fair.
thing. For 80 proof, it does have a lot of flavor. I think what it comes down to is if I'm spending $8 or $75 on a bottle, anything above $50 pretty much, I really want it to be my palate, my flavor profile, and this just isn't that. I think if it is your flavor profile, if you like that bitterness, it's very malty. It's what you expect from malt. It's got that, but it's the pale side of it, especially from that unmalted barley. If you like that, I think this is for you. If you don't, then it's not because it's expensive.
What are the notes on the red breast that you talked about earlier? Like are they comparable?
It's comparable, but lean. I'm actually all out of red breast. It's down there.
Shame.
It's comparable, but it leans towards the floral fruitiness and away from the pale graininess. I mean, it's there for sure, but it's, at least from what I remember, it was more towards the fruitiness for me.
That is one of the best tasting whiskeys.
I love Redbreast 12 year. This is
Yeah.
a plug for them. Hopefully this is supposed to be a plug for Green Spot, but but I do love Redbreast 12 year as well. Personally, I think just based on my preferences and my flavor, I'd like to do a side by side of them. So maybe I have to get a bottle and do a blind. But
I mean, if you were into the pale thing, I just have to think that this would taste amazing.
yes, it totally would.
If you were into like the smooth, lower proof stuff and like the unmalted barley,
If you really like Swiss cheese, brie cheese, grainy flavor. I think I just unlocked another
Swiss
note.
cheese. That's a good description.
Yeah,
I get that. I see what you're saying with the bitterness.
exactly.
Yeah, I like that bitterness of Swiss cheese.
Yeah, see.
Interesting.
Now that it's relatable, it's not as bad.
Yeah.
I can see that, but for me, it's not totally my palate. Objectively, I think it's a good whiskey. Subjectively, I don't think it's for me. Is basically what I think.
Yeah.
All right. Any closing thoughts on Redbreast or on our little mini experiment of the lowball Glencairn?
Personally, the glasses didn't make a huge difference for me. Green Spot, I'm an amateur. It's probably great.
Okay. That's why it's whiskey noobs, not whiskey pros, man.
Yeah.
That confirmed that there's not a huge difference between the glass types like we thought last time. Last time, right, I picked the Glencairn correctly the first time, and then you did the second time.
I think I got it wrong both times. You got it wrong the second time, is what I think. Oh, maybe I got it right.
I think you got it right the second time.
Yeah, I think we alternated. We flip flopped.
Yeah.
Somebody go listen to it and let me know. But yeah.
Comment on Instagram, #1 podcast.
Number one podcast on iTunes right now.
Green Spot.
Gonna beat that dead horse.
I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with talking about my distaste for this flavor profile.
It is not. I mean, you like as far as barley goes.
It's like the opposite of what I like.
Yes, it's probably as far from your average Scotch single malt flavor as we have gotten with a barley-based beverage.
Yeah,
I think Redbreast is closer. Tullamore Dew is closer. This is about as far as I think we've gotten in terms of a malt-based beverage from your typical Scotch, which is what you like.
Yeah.
So,
but if I remove my desires from a whiskey, it's definitely good. I don't know if it's still worth $75, but I feel like pricing on anything that's not U.S. whiskey is weird.
yeah, that's fair.
So I have to adjust it slightly. So yeah, I mean, it's a good whiskey. It's just not for me. I also, the biggest one is I'm not into like the flavor usually of like an 80 proof, but this one had more flavor than probably 99% of 80 proofs I've ever had.
Especially malt-based 80 proofs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even like general 80 proofs, like this was
Right.
up there in amount of flavor.
Right.
Indistinguishable. Indistinguishable.
Indistinguishable. Okay, so for my concluding thoughts, I'll fly the Green Spot flag since we kind of trashed it a little bit there for
I
a
blew
second.
it.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's great. No, here's what I'll say. It is incredibly complex. It does not dry your tongue out. It does dry your nasal cavity out, which is weird, but it's incredibly complex, a little bit oily on the palate. It changes on your palate, and it also changes as you sit with it. And 480 proof, a ton of flavor. I can see why you would like this. And the other thing is, I can see why you would recommend it for an Irish whiskey, because I think this is almost a caricature of the Irish whiskeys that I've had so far. This is like I said, it's as far from a Scotch as you can get so far from what I've had with Irish whiskey. It is in a league of its own. But the downside to that is if I recommend it to you because it's very, very Irish whiskey-y, I'd hate for you to abandon Irish whiskey because this is so Swiss cheese envelope-y.
Yeah.
So I'd hate to have that happen. But I'm impressed and disappointed at the same time. I'm impressed by what it delivered at 80 proof. I'm disappointed because I wanted it to be more than it was for me personally.
Especially at that price point.
Especially that price point. But sometimes it's just not your palate, and this is that. Everybody who's listened to the podcast knows I freaking hate clove, and it's got clove in it for sure. It's there.
Big clove.
Yeah, big clove flavor.
Big clove guy.
All right. I just want to point out, you guys didn't interrupt each other too much. Maybe 3 or 4 times.
I practiced.
It was good.
When he got annoying, I jumped in.
Okay.
Kind of said like 5 words.
I noticed you were jumping in quite a bit. No, you didn't interrupt each other too much. So
Without the headphones, I would have been terrible.
yeah, our normal conversation. We've been friends a while. Our normal conversations are so much worse than this.
I like to consider myself a professional amateur.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're a professional noob.
Yeah.
It's hard because I tend to look at you because you're like the host.
That's why I sat over here, because I knew I'd be taking my face away from the mic every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm bad with it.
This is a hard setup for 3 people. This desk is made for 2 people.
I actually don't think it's that bad for 3.
It's hard just because when you're talking, you have to like. This is a hard thing to do right here, keeping your mouth the same distance from the
I don't
mic.
think I did that bad, did I?
I don't know. We'll
guess
find
you'll
out.
find out soon.
We won't know until the end.
Well, yeah, I'll know.
We won't find out. You will find out.
I'll know when I spend 5 hours editing. No. Okay. Well, I think like you said, we've beat this dead horse on Green Spot. We've said all that we can about it. Not great, not terrible. If you like the palate, great. Glencairn versus Lowball, definitively not a huge difference.
Definitely.
All right. We can't beat this dead horse anymore. So hopefully you guys got something from that review. I want to be very clear. If you like the Green Spot flavor palette, I think you're going to like it a lot. I think it's worth the money if you like that flavor profile. I want to be very clear about that. But that's all that I've got to say about Green Spot. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you tried it if you're on the email list. And hopefully you now know that you can use Lowballs instead of Glencairns. I will leave you guys with learn to drink, drink to learn. Thank you for listening to this episode of Whiskey Noobs. If you like the show, please make sure to leave a 5-star rating or review to help grow the show and get the word out. You can also find more Whiskey Noobs content on Instagram at whiskey_noobs and on TikTok at Whiskey Noobs Podcast. If you want to drink right along with me, make sure to join the email list by sending an email to whiskeynoobspodcast@gmail.com with a subject line saying email list. You will receive monthly emails with a list of the whiskeys that will be featured throughout the month so that you can buy them ahead of time and drink right along with the show. Once again, thanks for listening to this episode. The Whiskey Noobs Podcast does not support underage or otherwise irresponsible consumption of alcohol.